With great power, they say, comes great responsibility. When the government of India declared itself the pharmacy of the world, it should have been reminded of this. If you are going to export medicines and vaccines to the world, then quality is non-negotiable. Even the slightest let-up can prove to be fatal. Let me tell you about some worrying news that came in from Uzbekistan. At least 18 children in Samarkand have died after allegedly consuming an Indian-made syrup. It's called Doc 1 Max, and it's made by a company called Marion Biotech, which is based in Noida. Now, the major component of this syrup is paracetamol. So parents thought they can use it as an anti-cold remedy. The children drank the syrup for 7 days, that to around 3 to 4 times a day. 21 of them were hospitalized with kidney damages. And last we checked, 18 of these children have died. Yes, of course, the parents and pharmacies must take some blame. But as it turns out, the syrup itself was toxic. Uzbekistan's health ministry conducted preliminary tests on the Indian-made syrup. They found traces of an impurity called ethylene glycol. Does that ring a bell? Maybe not for you, but it will ring bells in the Indian health ministry, because this is the very same substance that was responsible for the death of 70 children in Gambia. Now, in case you don't remember, let me tell you what happened in Gambia. By late July, the government in Gambia had noticed an uptick in children diagnosed with kidney failure. All of them had consumed 4 Indian syrups made by a company called Maiden Pharmaceuticals. When the samples were tested, 2 impurities were traced: ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol. Back then, both the company and the government of India rejected these allegations. But last week, a Gambian parliamentary panel recommended the company's prosecution essentially means they are now going to be suing the company. Coming back to Uzbekistan, the sale of Doc 1 Max has been halted across the country. Here in India, no need to worry, the syrup was never sold here in the first place. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia has taken note of the incident. He says Marion Biotech's Noida facility has been inspected and samples have now been sent for testing. The company's legal head is saying an investigation is underway and until then production has been halted. Let me go straight across to Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, who is chairperson of the Nephron clinic. Dr. Bagai, I remember having a conversation with you when children had died in Gambia as well, and you had told me this is all, all this talk, all these headlines are just meant to malign India's pharma industry, which is amongst the biggest and the best in the world. We are amongst the biggest and the best in the world, but can we ignore the fact that after Gambia, something again of a similar nature has happened in Uzbekistan as well, where 18 children have died?
Good evening. So let's break this down scientifically. Irrespective of what the Gambian ministry has said, the report which I read last on the net was that the Indian government has not found any traces of ethylene glycol as far as the Gambian incidence was concerned. Coming to the incidence of Uzbekistan, let me first put certain facts on the table. The cough syrups are of various types. Very often it's in combination with antipyretics, anti-allergics, cough suppressants, mucolytics, and so on. They are the most commonly used, abused, overused, and inaccurately administered cough syrups worldwide. Any dose which is inaccurate and not calculated on milligrams per kilogram per day of the child or the age of the child can cause serious harm worldwide. So it is not something which is unique or India-centric. Having said that, these drugs were used for a prolonged period of time, apparently for another indication, without knowing what the comorbid or the medical condition of the child was. We don't know what the lab values of the child is. And for anyone, be it the opposition parties or the Uzbekistan government, to mention these claims without a neutral, unbiased, detailed forensic audit and report would be quite premature. What is important is that in these cough syrups, not only company A versus B or C have been used in accurately monitored with the doctor's prescription, dose calculated accurately for years together. We've had no serious side effects, no serious complications in any of our practices. I've been in pediatrics for the last 40 odd years. no problem at all. The question is, the medication, not only a cough syrup, be it an antibiotic or any other medicine, has to be monitored scientifically and the dose calculated accurately. Let the neutral investigation come. I'm pretty much sure that this would be evident, but any premature claim would be highly irresponsible, either on the part of the government in Uzbekistan or certain opposition leaders who are just suddenly overnight become doctors.
But Dr. Bagai, you had said the same thing about Gambia, and yes, the Indian Health Ministry and India's experts had dismissed the claims that Gambia had made. But the fact is that the Gambian government still believes that it was the Indian-made cough syrup that killed their children, 70 of them. They are planning to sue the company. So while the Indian government may hold a view, the fact is that the view of the Gambian government after all forensic investigations, etc., is that the company needs to be sued.
Yes, so there is a court of law, but let me reassure everyone who's watching this program that the Indian drug authorities' rules, regulations, and audit and quality checks are very thorough. They are extremely stringent. There is no, it's not over-the-cuff remark that India is the pharmaceutical capital of the world. Perhaps per capita use of medication in a population reaching 1.35 billion is not a small joke. It's not a small task. The pharmacy is monitored, the drugs are monitored, the quality of Indian drugs. I'm not talking of spurious drugs, but drugs authentically manufactured from the Indian pharma industry are good, they are safe. We have used them for decades together without a problem. But also I must add, any false litigation also carries damages, so the other countries should realize that.
Okay. We'll leave it there for the moment, Dr. Bagai. Thank you very much for joining us. As we